right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here on this extremely warm day. So I think it's very good that you're here and you came and you cycled or walked through the heat. Tonight, we're speaking with someone who has quite an interesting job. Volker Türk. He is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. Let's start off with an applause. I think that's nice. And then I'll start off with this short biography. You held this position since 2022. You're an Austrian lawyer, and you devoted a big part of your career at the UN to improving universal human rights, the international protection of some of the world's most vulnerable people, refugees, stateless people. But the office you lead in Geneva is the UN's Human Rights Office, where people work in dozens of countries, monitoring abuses, raising cases with governments, observing trials, supporting victims. And last year alone, you helped to free more than 4,000 people from detention. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Almost 5.
Almost 5,000. Okay, almost 5,000. But we're sitting here also in a time of profound international tensions. Armed conflicts are multiplying, authoritarian tendencies are gaining ground in many areas in the world, and the international rules, the rule-based order is increasingly under pressure. And the question we'll keep returning to tonight is, what is the future of human rights, and how do these norms stay credible when they're increasingly contested and maybe even violated? Or should I leave out the maybe? I think I should leave out the maybe. Okay, yeah, no maybe.
Are violated.
Yeah. Tonight, you're going to open with a short keynote. I'll stay here. I found because you want me to. And then, no, I'm joking also. And then we're going to have a conversation about the situation of your office, the major human rights crises in the world, and also the future of human rights. And as you can see, this event is being streamed live, so welcome to all the people who are watching at home. And there's also room for questions after your talk and after the interview. So please remember your questions, write them down, and then there'll be plenty, not plenty, but there is time for questions. Well, Volker.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, and really great to be here, to be in this fantastic location, which it's the first time that I visit, so I'm very happy to be here. And I did not want to do a keynote speech, but more a keynote conversation, which is why I think it's good that because we will continue this conversation. What I did want to say is to share with you some reflections, some ideas, which we can then look into more depth during the conversation. And I'm also very happy to see some old friends and familiar faces from many lives past. So it's also great reconnecting with old friends. Some of you who follow human rights saw my global update that I provided to the Human Rights Council last Monday. It's what we do on 3 times a year. So 3 times a year, I provide a global update to the Human Rights Council. By the way, it's always very interesting because the room is always full when we do these global updates, and it's usually the ambassadors come, which is also, it's not always the case, but for this global update, they're all waiting, who would I mention, what would I say, what trends would I identify, and it gives a little bit of a state of human rights in the world. So I don't want to go through the litany of things that you can obviously read online, and there's quite a lot. But I want to share with you some deeper reflections. I think there is no doubt that we are faced with a moment in history that is full of complexities, probably complexities that we haven't quite had before. And why is that the case? I think we are on uncharted geopolitical terrain. And sometimes I actually think back of the Cold War. I grew up during the Cold War, and I remember that during the height of the Cold War, it was possible to agree to the Helsinki Final Act in 1975. And I think those who are older probably remember that moment, because you actually had 3 baskets, one of which was the human dimension, which was the human rights basket. And I wish that same spirit, which was really the height of the Cold War, where, you know, there were a lot of tensions between Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact, and NATO and the US and the Western countries, you could actually come to an agreement because you negotiated things and you actually put the human dimension into, frankly, a security framework. And I think we sometimes forget that in history we have been able to deal with very high tensions. There is, I think many of us feel it, there has been a high level of uncertainty, a level of confusion, a level of fear, I'm sure. And when I talk to people around the world, I also feel that many, including young people, are often feeling very unsettled and shaken by what's happening. But I think we need to be always very mindful, and maybe when we talk about the future, we need to be very mindful of what are those forces that want us feel off kilter, that want us be on uncharted terrain. Because we always want to find the balance again and our own agency, and again, when it comes to human rights, that's extremely important. So how does this unsettling world manifest itself? It's very clear when we talk about war and conflict. We have the highest number of armed conflicts since the end of the Second World War, over 60, and we only talk about a few. Even in the public mind, there is not enough attention paid to suffering that happens in so many of these conflicts. We have also seen the successful resolution of conflict is lower than at any point in the last 50 years. So we have not been able to resolve conflict, and there are many reasons for it. And there is very simplistic explanations. The UN bashing is part of it. But quite frankly, there are many reasons for it, and we need to understand them. We also see that, and I have to say, when I was in January in Sudan, in January, I visited Sudan again, and I remember meeting the ones who had led the revolution in 2018, 2019, and when you see their spirit of wanting to change things, especially young women, and men, and actually it was a youth women's movement, especially in Khartoum. What now you see is a very apart from the awful war, you see a very militarized society. I mean, the checkpoints between Dongola, I mean, I was in North State, between Dongola and Adaba, which is about a 3-hour drive, there were maybe 20 checkpoints. So you can imagine what this means for ordinary citizens who want to travel around, how many times they're controlled. And the society has become, again, very militarized. Not the people, but what they want to do is a militarization. And frankly, I think we should always ask ourselves, when this happens, what does it tell for us? Because, of course, today we have a lot of discussions about defense, about security, about military defense spending, and so forth. And is this how we want to grow up? And do we look at security in a very narrow way, and shouldn't we enlarge it? These conflicts are also characterized by blatant disregard for international humanitarian law and international human rights law. And I have to say this is a big worry of mine, because we see that if you normalize acceptance of civilian casualties and indiscriminate bombardment sorry, I should have put this up. I hope you could hear me.
Is it good? Yeah.
I should probably not move my head too much. Yeah. Okay.
If it's not good, please
say so. Yes. Yeah. So we see this blatant disregard, and the problem is it cannot become the new normal, because if, for instance, civilian casualties are accepted in ways that in the past would have been horrific, we actually see that those who want to wage war or who wage war are going to create a new norm. And that's very dangerous. The same on civilian infrastructure. I mean, there are very clear rules about the attacks against civilian infrastructure. We saw that in Ukraine, especially with electricity infrastructure. We saw it also in Gaza. We saw it in Sudan and in many other places as well. I mean, if you do this, you deprive the population of fundamental assets of life, of survival, and the consequences are not the killings that we see normally when it comes to civilian casualties. The killings are indirect because health systems are destroyed, electricity systems are destroyed. If you think of a woman who is disabled in Ukraine living in a high-rise building, she will not be able to go out because the elevator doesn't work, so she may not have access to electricity and water and whatever else. So you just think of what this means. The same on, by the way, on the ecological system, because all of these wars have awful ecological consequences, and it means that the environment gets destroyed as a result. Then we need to understand more about the political economy of conflicts, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. We are not there yet, but a lot of these conflicts and the chaos that they create has behind it manifest interests of those who want to benefit from war and chaos. Then there is often this mentality of exceptionalism. The end, whatever the end may be, justify the means. We hear that more and more, and they don't. That's why you have international law, that's why you have the UN Charter, that's why you have international humanitarian law, and you have international human rights law. That's when it comes to wars. Civic space. We see a shrinking in civic space that gives us the impression that autocracy has the upper hand. I mean, if you look just at statistics and a number of surveys and studies that were done over the years, today only 7% of the world population live in fully functioning democracies. A couple of years ago, it was 12.5%. And if you look at what people want, they actually want more democracy and they want more human rights. So there is an autocratic playbook that is being played out when it comes to restrictions of civic space, of NGOs, of journalism, of independent journalism. Sometimes public broadcasters get attacked these days. We see it, I mean, death and safety of journalists, a big topic. Because more and more killings and intimidations and journalists ending up in prison, or they get these strategic lawsuits against them because they want to be, the idea is to intimidate them. But at the same time, we also see these Gen Z protests around the world. Bangladesh is a good example in 2024, but we had last year Nepal, Madagascar, Tanzania, Indonesia, Peru, I mean, you name it. So you see also young people really fight for their rights, and very often it's both civil and political, but also against corruption and for economic and social rights. We have seen an unprecedented attack against institutions and multilateralism. It has really become a fashion to bash the UN. Without much regard for and much knowledge about what the UN actually represents and who is the UN, because there's a lot of misinformation around that as well. I mean, you in the Netherlands also go through the horrible situation with the attacks against the International Criminal Court, including the sanctions, both by, well, Russia in terms of arrest warrants, US with the sanctions, and not only, well, the UN, by the way, also gets attacked. We have one special rapporteur who was sanctioned against the law, against standards, but also UNRWA, the treatment of UNRWA and the misinformation around it. But then the funding side as well. I mean, the regular budget, we have a very complex budget structure in the UN. I don't want to bore you with the details, but the regular budget is assessed contributions. So these are compulsory obligations that states have to pay in. Well, we have had some of the big powers not pay their dues. As a result, we are thrown into a spiral, a vicious circle of not being able to deliver. And that's, of course, a big problem because it weakens us, it weakens the human rights framework. So we are a bit in a survival mode. There is the politics of distraction and deception. It's muddying the waters. What I hear today about gender issues is mind-boggling. I always thought that there are certain things that we have achieved, especially when it comes to gender equality issues, but quite frankly, I have to tell you, we can never take anything for granted. Because even the fundamental issues of gender equality are questioned by some people, and even, becoming normalized, including, by the way, within the UN framework. We have this issue of cultural relativism. I hear too often that, oh, human rights is a Western product, it's a Western concept. I mean, if you talk to anyone who is suffering these days, anywhere in the world, they would be the first ones to tell you this is absolute nonsense, because we all want to be free and equal in dignity and rights. But this mantra, oh, it's a Western concept, we can't talk about it. When you talk to the victims and survivors, they will very quickly tell you that that's absolutely nonsense. We have the ideas of supremacy as well. Supremacy that you think you are better because you belong to one group or to one religion or to whatever, and others are worse, or they have to be treated differently. In fact, there's almost a dehumanization in the other. And we also in Europe, when I look at the migration and refugee debate, for example, when I look at different, even around issues, LGBTIQ+ community, minorities, different religious expressions, there is this idea we are better than others and everyone else has to abide by whatever we decide is the rule. And that's obviously not the case. Then there's the issue of exceptionalism. We are an exception. We are fighting terrorism, so we can do anything we want. Well, that's again wrong, because when we looked at what's happening in the Caribbean on narco-terrorism, as we were told, and 200 people got killed in fishing boats by the US, it's very clear that this is an utter confusion of concepts, and a very dangerous one, because it feeds people with concepts that have got nothing to do with the reality. And then there is divisive politics, exclusionary politics, us versus them, enemy versus friends, either you're for me or you're against me. Again, a very dangerous thing, because divisive politics takes away agency and takes away the public space that we so desperately need to have agree to disagree argument, that we actually listen to each other and find a way to resolve issues that are out there. And from a human rights perspective, of course, we need this as much as we can. And often it excludes people. What is the answer to all of this? And maybe we can do this in the discussion. It is, of course, human rights. And I have, despite all the doom and gloom, I have high hopes that the time of human rights is yet to come. Because it is actually the one thing that we can hold on to, that guides us, that is a normative framework, and that still inspires people around the world to stand up for the rights of others. And yes, that potential is yet to be fulfilled in its entirety. But we can discuss this.
Thank you. There's a few points I think we're going to talk a bit more about, but you end hopeful. So let me ask first a hopeful question. What is the one thing you would like to change or implement to make the human rights stronger as a mechanism?
So we launched...
As a dictator, what would you change?
No, we launched a global alliance for human rights. Yeah. And I have a prospect for you here. Mm-hmm. We can give you the web link. And it's meant to be not a UN-type bureaucratic process. It's really meant to give an inspiration to all segments of society. So it's not only member states, it's member states as well, obviously, but it's also civil society organizations. And I met with civil society organizations here today, not in Amsterdam, but in The Hague, which was very interesting for me. It's about the private sector. I met the business sector as well. It's about artists, it's philosophers, it's academics, it's sports people. I mean, really making sure that we broaden beyond the traditional supporters of human rights and make human rights an issue of communication for everyone, and realize it, because we have taken it too much for granted. And in a way, it's a possibility for us to regain and re-own human rights in its entirety and be aware where it comes from.
So this is part of the new strategy
to galvanize, mobilize.
Mobilize, to ask civil society to interact even sports people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had some
yeah?
interesting, we had the Balie, for example,
Yeah.
talking about his own experience. I mean, the Senegalese, the team leader of the Senegalese team, talking about his experience on human rights and explaining what human rights meant for him and his life, for example.
I want to end with the positive and what we all have to do. So I'm going to wrap this hopeful bit up. Because maybe some of you know, some people here know you, people know the UN, but let's start a bit easier. When you're at a birthday party and you have to explain your job, how do you explain it? What do you do?
Well, by the way, it's a fantastic job, despite everything, because we actually make a difference in people's lives. I mean, to get people out of detention, to see that we have influenced over the last couple of years 390 legislation and policy pieces for the better, which means that policies that would otherwise, or laws that would otherwise have adopted and would have been contrary to human rights, to prevent this from happening is a success.
That's why you keep on going.
That's why we keep on going. And I also feel the energy from, and sometimes, in Europe, we forget that there is a world out there. I mean, the students in Bangladesh, that we stood in solidarity with them, meant the world for them. And they felt that they were not alone. Yeah. And when I went to Bangladesh after this revolution, because they talk about it as a revolution, you cannot imagine how excited they were. And this is about the UN, that we stood in solidarity with them during an extremely difficult time, because 1,300 of the students got killed by the police and by mobs and different militia. Yeah. And so yes, we can make a difference despite all of it.
Means something. It means something in a global perspective, even though the world is really in a bad state. But how would you explain it? Like very briefly, how do you explain your job as somebody who doesn't know what the UN is, doesn't know what you do? Very briefly.
I mean,
do you do a lot of these talks? Is there negotiations?
What we do is, first of all, meet, engage, listen, connect, monitor, talk, and also make sure that, we are the watchdog.
Watchdog.
We are not only the watchdog, but we are the watchdog on human rights.
And does the watchdog have teeth?
Yes.
What are they?
I mean, the reports that my office has been documenting in Ukraine since 2014 got cited 500 times by the European Court of Human Rights in its judgment, for example. And that happens by the judiciary, the international legal system looks at what we do every day. Yeah. And it has consequences as a result. And
if you have to give one concrete example you're really proud of, what you've accomplished?
I think you see, I also want to start hopeful. Yeah. No. I mean,
because it's quite depressing if you sum up everything that's happening. But what's something very important, concrete you did with your office?
Just to tell you one example, because now I can talk about it openly. And this is just one example of so many. When I went to Sudan in 22, so it was still before the war, I went to see one emblematic case in detention. And everyone said to me, you can't do it, it would provoke the military authorities. And I said, no, I still want to do it. I think it's an important signal. And then I raised the case, and he got released 2 weeks later. So, yeah.
Well, can you reveal the person's name?
No.
Okay. But you know that you see it in front of you. You also had a meeting here in the Netherlands with our Prime Minister, Jette. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. Yesterday. Yeah. What's the message you had for Prime Minister Jette?
Centrality of human rights in everything government needs to do, of course.
Because how are we doing in the Netherlands?
I mean, you have a government that is committed. You have a prime minister who is committed to the human rights cause. Of course, it's always complicated in the political environment, but it's important. And I mean, for instance, we talked about the Global Alliance. He's supportive of it. Yeah. We talked about different situations around the world. Of course, situation in the Middle East, Ukraine, Sudan also.
Also about migration?
We did talk about migration as well, and I think it's clear that When it comes to migration, you probably saw that I was very critical of the return directive that was adopted.
You said
last week.
Yeah, you're very concerned about the new EU return laws and urge consistency with human rights and refugee law. So you talked about this as well with our Prime Minister.
We talked more generally about migration, but yeah. I mean, it's not these meetings that you cannot go through the whole list.
I know, but you raised your concerns publicly about this new about what's happening in Europe. So what should we do? What should we change?
I mean, I think on migration and asylum, what I have found in Europe in particular is a very difficult political debate and a very emotionalized one. And one that is not based on not only the demographic developments, but also on the fundamentals of humanity. I mean, I hear questioning of the asylum and refugee convention. Well, these were achievements that came out of the experience of the Holocaust and the Second World War, because people were returned at the border and refooled. So that's why it was clear we needed to establish a legal framework that makes sure that the principle of non-refoulement is respected, for example. I now see sometimes a debate that questions this. And
it's not only a debate; it's actually policy, right? Because it's going to be implemented. Because Human Rights Watch also warned that the Migration Pact, lets EU countries send asylum seekers to a third country, which is deemed safe, or even when they don't have ties with the country. And still, it's enough that they pass this through, and this is EU member states. So, and they were also talking about pushing people to places like Rwanda or Albania, which has failed. And still, we're talking about it. And my question is, why would they write it in a law while it's against the Refugee Convention? This is what you just stated.
So, the externalization is a particular issue, because in all the experiences that I have seen, it has never worked. Australia started some of this, and it was awful. It was inhuman and cruel, because they basically took asylum seekers to Nauru, a Pacific island, and to PNG, to Papua New Guinea in Manus Island. You had then the UK-Rwanda deal, which, again, from our perspective, was not working at all.
And now they're talking about Uganda, about Kenya, about Uzbekistan. It's
I think there's a lot of talk. Let's see whether it actually will hold up before a court of law, and I doubt this very much.
But what is the consequence if it doesn't hold?
It won't. I mean, the UK-Rwanda deal never got implemented. There was a lot of throwing glitter in the eyes. But it's not going to work. What you actually need, and that is in the Asylum Pact, you need fair and efficient processes, because you need to determine who is in need of international protection, who is not. And yes, the state has a right to decide on this and needs to decide. You need a comprehensive integration policy for those who are found to be in need of international protection. And you need to build an enabling environment that not only explains why protection imperatives are important, but also does everything possible to integrate people who are found to be in need of international protection. But I sometimes, and it needs solidarity within the EU member states.
As the Netherlands, we're going to just pay the money to probably Greece or Italy or Spain. Do you think that's is that a sign of solidarity?
You need solidarity on many fronts. It includes that, but I mean, of course, it also includes family unification, for example, because we know that family unification is a big driver of onward movements. You need, also to find ways and means to, deal with it in concrete terms. Paying off is paying. Okay. I mean, it needs to be more comprehensive. Paying off is one measure. And you need not paying off. You need to support host countries that are particularly affected. But that's not the only. You need resettlement, you need relocation, you need all these type of schemes.
You also just mentioned the survival mode your office is in because of the financial cuts. mainly because of the US. I have some figures here. Roughly $90 million are short. Around 300 jobs were cut. About 15% of your staff, and its presence reduced or ended in 17 countries. And
you have very correct.
I know.
Yeah.
Somebody prepared it very well for me, Dirk. And you started to call this survival mode. What can you no longer do because of these budget cuts, like the most pressing ones?
Well, for instance, we have to service 13 commissions of inquiry and fact-finding missions. We had to scale down to between 50 and 60% of staffing, which means less monitoring. So you reduce it by 40%, right? The treaty bodies, sorry, this is very technical, but you have human rights treaty bodies, which is, these are quasi-judicial expert organs that review the practice of states when it comes to their compliance with international human rights law. Normally we have 3 sessions of these 10 treaty bodies in Geneva, or 9 because not all of them, one is the Subcommittee on Prevention of Torture. So if you can only do 2 sessions, we could not have the scrutiny of 50 states last year as a result.
Wow.
So if you have less scrutiny,
how do you decide?
Well, it's according to a calendar, but the calendar gets postponed. So you basically move it to the next year, which delays, if you like, the process. The Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture, which is an incredibly important prevention mechanism, it's experts that go into countries and visit prisons and detention centers. I mean, they would do 10 visits per year. They could only do 4 last year. So
what are the consequences for the people?
Well, torture, if you have less scrutiny, if you have less monitoring, if you have less documentation, it has a corrosive effect because it doesn't put the prevention out that is necessary.
And what is then like the next step? Because the US, Trump is gonna stay there probably for a bit. Like we don't know who else is gonna be elected president afterwards. Like there's no guarantees.
I think
if the consequences are so big, what is then your strategy?
I think the issue will have to be first of all, we will see a couple of decisions now being made because which is again one of the strange things about the UN, when we have unspent money at the end of the year, we have to give that unspent money back, even if some of the member states are only paying their dues at the very end when you can't spend it anymore. So it's a very bizarre situation.
Yeah.
So the rules are, you receive money from some member states let's say in December. You can't spend it.
But this is maybe too detailed. But is this then going to solve the problem?
If they lift this ban, it will resolve a lot. But of course, there needs to be pressure on the US and others to pay their dues in full and on time.
And who is doing that?
Other member states, because they're all part of it. So I think it's important to put pressure and to make it, I remember there was a lot of pressure put on NATO contributions. So, I mean, why is there not the same pressure put on UN contributions, which are compulsory?
Somebody's saying something behind me. Can I repeat it? No?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So, answer that question. That's the perfect question.
But answer the question. So why do we have a lot?
Yeah.
I don't know why there isn't more pressure. But I mean, I hope that, there is some pressure, but there needs to be more pressure.
And are you confident that's going to happen?
I think countries realize that we are in the survival mode. I mean, you have the UN 80 reform process. I mean, you have a number of things that are happening, of course. But at some stage, the moment of truth is coming.
Yeah.
So
Jette, our prime minister, was saying, "I'll give some extra money and I'll call Trump."
No, the Netherlands has been. I have to say, the Netherlands has been one of the. A very important donor to help us get through this, and I appreciate that enormously because others are also scaling back.
Yeah, but if I listen to you. Even though you're hopeful, the conclusion is also the UN and human rights are in extreme danger, in crisis.
They are in a survival mode.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't like it. I don't like to say that human rights are in crisis, because when you have traffic rules and traffic regulations and you have someone, jump the red light or speed, we would not say that the traffic regulations are in crisis. It's not that the traffic regulations are in crisis, it's the ones who want to implement it. And it's not, the validity of human rights is not taken away if you have people who violate what they do. And that's important, because sometimes we see a little bit, and this is a nice
strategy.
A nice strategy to distract us. No, the human rights are there. They are a normative system that has to be applied. If those who violate it, at some stage, hopefully there will be accountability, and there's some historic reckoning as well, but it doesn't take away the validity of the human rights framework.
I understand.
It's a bit, that's why I like the comparison with the traffic regulations.
Yeah. We get through back to it at the end on what we have to do, because I want to focus on a few of these crises very briefly. You've already mentioned Sudan, Gaza, Ukraine, but there was also an important report, I think, yesterday from the United Nations Commission of Inquiry on Israel. Let me just read out a little bit what it says here. Israeli forces continue to commit genocide against Palestinians by deliberately targeting children in the Gaza Strip. This was a report of the United Nations.
Commission of Inquiry.
The Commission last year concluded Israel had committed genocide in Gaza, found that Israeli military operations have continued, causing unprecedented death, injury, and trauma to Palestinian children. The Commission describes what it says is a deliberate targeting of children as a key indicator of Israeli authorities. Genocidal intent to destroy the Palestinian people, including after a ceasefire in Gaza took effect. Well, this is a horrifying report. I read some pieces of it. How do you, as a human being and as a human rights defender, like you are the big man in the world, what does it do to you, actually, a report like this on children?
I mean, all this, not only the reports, but the lived experience of people, because I met Palestinians who had, I wasn't allowed to go into Gaza, but I met them in Rafah, and I met them in many other places as well. It's, of course, the human impact is, it shakes you to the core. I remember I went to Rafah, there was a hospital just maybe a couple of 45 minutes away, where I saw, and this was in 23 already, in November 23, we see, when you see children, and I saw children who had just lost their legs or been in, you can see their trauma, of course, it's humanely absolutely horrifying. And not only there, I saw the same in Sudan, I saw the same in Ukraine, I saw the same in Myanmar, and outside Myanmar, because again, we can't go in.
But this one is where they particularly target children. There's children being shot in that in private parts. There's certain days when they shoot a certain area on children, just as a sort of, I don't know how you would describe that. On babies, on infants. The report is horrific. But for who do you write these reports?
So
the commission. I know it's not your.
But my office has also issued a lot of reports.
So for who are these reports?
So these reports are very important for accountability mechanisms, and accountability mechanisms, be it at the national level when you have universal jurisdiction. Universal jurisdiction means that you can actually use your criminal law against perpetrators, because there is a commission of one of the three atrocity crimes: war crimes, crimes against humanity, or genocide. So you can actually investigate. The same with the International Criminal Court. So this documentation is extremely important.
So it's for the accountability.
It is for accountability purposes. It's for the purposes of also hopefully having a preventive effect.
But who should act, and who should stop this? Who should prevent this? Who is
member states? Especially when it comes to international humanitarian law and the respect for international humanitarian law, have a specific responsibility to ensure that they put all pressures on state parties that violate them.
And are they doing that?
Not enough, clearly.
What is then your message? Let's stick to Europe, because we are in Europe. What should Europe do? What should the Netherlands do?
Put more pressure. Look at all mechanisms that they have at their disposal. Such as? Well, for instance, I mean, I don't know about the Netherlands, what type of mechanism, but for instance, arms transfers that could be not in compliance. I mean, if there is an indication that arms transfers could lead to violations of this nature, they should not take place, and they need to be forbidden. Yeah. Because there is a special duty of responsibility on the part of member states, because otherwise you become. I mean, there could be an issue of complicity as well. So, are we complicit? Well, I don't know about the Netherlands exactly what the Netherlands is doing or not doing. I think there are issues that Europe has to look into its mirror, because we have seen different reactions when it comes to Ukraine, and we have seen different reaction when it comes to, in particular, Gaza and the West, and also the West Bank, because the situation in the West Bank is is deteriorating as we speak. Yeah. So yes, it does require a lot more attention, emphasis, and action. Yeah, you used words. It's totally illegal. I'm out of red flags. Yes, that's what I said. And your warnings have not been heeded. But if we need to do more. But are we complicit then? Because it's a genocide. That's also what the Commission says. I mean, the court will decide, because it's before the international. Because you don't want to say it's a genocide, right? I cannot say it because I respect the fact that there is a court proceeding going on. So that's important for us. But it doesn't matter. The fact is, it's already war crimes, it's crimes against humanity, it's all kinds of things. So we do have an issue that needs to be addressed, and we shouldn't even wait whether whether the court decides it's genocide or not. I mean, frankly, the situation in and of itself is so horrendous that it requires action and determined action. Absolutely. I want to go to Sudan. Yeah, it's not a joyful evening. I'm sorry. Sudan is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world right now. You repeatedly also warned before the fall of al-Fashir in Sudan, but according to your own UN colleagues, those warnings were ignored. And now there's again warnings that this is going to happen in El Obeid, another area in Sudan. And you said we've seen this playbook before. So what is about to happen in El Obeid in Sudan if nothing happens again? So we saw last year there was an IDP camp, Samsam, in Darfur. Internally displaced. I mean, a camp where those who were internally displaced inside Darfur were hosted under very precarious circumstances. So when the RSF went in, there was rape, gang rape, conflict, sexual violence used as a weapon of warfare. There were massacres. There were, killings en masse. There was torture, detention, and that's exactly what happened when the RSF took over al-Fashir. Yeah, the Rapid Support Forces. One of the warring parties. Yeah. Which means that we fear, despite all, I've talked to the RSF. Many people talk to the RSF. I talked to Hemeti a couple of times. Wow. Yes. And what does he say? Well, they always say the violations are by someone else. They always point out that the SAF is doing it, and the RSF says, and the SAF, it's all about the RSF. Nobody looks at themselves. So what do you say? What can you do? We say, we have documented horrific reports coming out of al-Fashir. Sometimes they say, these are individuals, and we say, that's not the evidence that we have because it's systematic, and we make them aware of their command responsibilities. Meaning that they have a responsibility to stop this. But that doesn't stop them. Unfortunately not, no. So, and the issue then is, who benefits from all of this? Who does? I think that's the big question. I think we have a lot of countries, the drones that are currently used, so the highest number of civilian deaths this year is because of drones. In Sudan, right? Both sides. Yeah. In Sudan. We know that during the rainy season, they will not be able. I mean, usually there is a decrease in civilian deaths during the rainy season because, of course, the fighting doesn't go on. Because of the drones, we fear that it will unfortunately continue because the drones obviously don't depend on the weather.
Where do they come from?
They come from different parts of the world, but they are not, I mean, where they are produced is one thing, who sells them is another, and that's the big thing.
No,
and that require a lot of more research.
Because you also said the states with influence have the duty to exercise it now to stop this madness. So who exactly are those states?
I mean, definitely, I would say within the region and outside the region. And we know we have those who they know very well that those who produce these drones, who do they sell this to? And we don't have enough intelligence about how this market actually works.
But who are those states? Which states?
Well, you have the neighboring states. You have countries in the Gulf. You have countries beyond that, probably as well. But we don't have, I cannot talk which one. And there was some investigation by the fact-finding mission that identified, they didn't name them, but they identified, I think, if I remember correctly, 20 states already, but they are still doing the investigations. But the problem is with this is because it's about attribution of responsibility, so complex from a legal perspective. But I hope, and my warning was, this is not going to go away. We will come to the point where we will see who is behind all of this.
Because the UAE arms the RSF, right? And European countries keep selling weapons to the UAE. So when we keep arming the country that arms the RSF, is that something you condemn, that European countries are doing this?
I mean, they need to take extra caution what happens with the type of things that they sell to whoever is involved.
Yeah, but there is also a UN embargo.
Yes.
It's not only it's not only
on Darfur.
Yeah, exactly. And you try to get it
to say it for the whole country.
Which
doesn't exist, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if the UAE gives weapons to RSF and we are selling those, I think France is, the US is, and the UK are selling weapons to the UAE.
Well, I mean, the UAE will not necessarily sell those weapons to Sudan, or I mean, I don't know. So this requires an investigation.
Yeah. But is then the message also to the EU and the US, you're complicit?
It's to whoever gets involved in this. So I mean, it's not, and it's something that everyone needs to watch out for, because it's something. Sorry.
Watch out for you and the reports.
Well, I mean,
so
I think not for us, but I mean, it's obviously an important issue.
Yeah.
Because if the fighting continues unabated, without any relief for the victims, yes, at some stage the accountability question will come up. It is very complicated. It's not as easy as one would think. So, I mean, attribution is I'm sorry to say, because this is a legal thing, but it's not, because we cannot do it only on the basis of hearsay. We need to prove it, and the evidence gathering is a difficult one. But it has to happen, yes.
Okay. Another point where we are also maybe involved, migration. We talked about it briefly, but there's also the thing about Afghanistan. The Taliban, you hold governments to treaties they signed, but increasingly we, the West, ourselves, the very architects of this system, even though it's universal, we are kind of walking away from it. And you also said dehumanization of migrants and refugees, including in the UK, the US, and many other EU countries. It's appalling, often leading also to the denial of their rights. But if we look now at the visit of the Taliban, there was a delegation this week. Somebody forgot to turn off their phone. There was a Taliban delegation with the EU in Brussels, something that might have been unthinkable not long ago. And the subject was about deporting Afghans whose asylum claims have been rejected, to bring them back to Afghanistan. What is your opinion on this?
Well,
first
of all, we talk to the Taliban. I have an office in Afghanistan, and we for instance, have access to prisons again, which is very important because they know us, because we were also there when they were detained and had been tortured. So they know us very well. But unfortunately, we were not able to convince them that, especially when it comes to, frankly, a gender apartheid system that they have established, that there they are not listening to us. So we engage
there
with the Taliban.
There is a communication.
We communicate with them, yes, and we make them constantly also put them in front of their responsibilities. And it's, it is what it is. At least we are there, and that's important. Look, when it comes to the human rights situation in Afghanistan, I mean, we have, when it comes to women and girls, as everyone knows, we have a systematic persecution on account of gender.
Yeah, you use the word gender apartheid even.
I mean, it's a systematic system of discrimination against them. And I mean, I would be very surprised that they identify anyone who is not in need of international protection. I mean, there may be the Taliban themselves, if they apply for asylum and could be read. But I mean, those who seek international protection, who have a case to be made, yes, they would deserve.
But what do you think then of the fact that they came to the EU, and that there's talks about sending people back to Afghanistan?
For us, for the UN, they are de facto authorities, so they're not the recognized. I mean, they haven't been recognized by the UN. I don't know what the EU is going to do with all of this.
Because your UN Special Rapporteur, Richard Bennett, he tweeted, or I don't know what you call it these days, he said, I endorse this statement by you, Volker Türk, regretting a new EU regulation allowing speedy deportations. And a meeting with Taliban in Brussels would insult Afghans, especially women. But what is happening here? Like, I'm confused.
I'm not the EU, so you need to talk to the EU about this.
I don't mean EU, but like from a human rights values, human rights perspective, like, I want to be hopeful. I want to follow you. I find it hard. I want to be inspired. I think a lot of people here, but I find it very difficult if we look at like these situations.
I hope that our message is heard about the disastrous human rights situation in Afghanistan and our call to stop deportations to the country. I mean, I issued
so you're against this. That's very clear.
I issued a very strong call because we have seen a number of, especially Iran and Pakistan, have deported a lot of Afghans. We have also seen, when I issued that, we have also seen this, Turkey, we have seen it also from some European countries. For us, the position is very clear. You cannot forcibly return Afghans to Afghanistan.
So what is happening here with Europe?
An emotionalized dialogue on issues that need a cool and reasonable discussion about what we can do in order to accept foreigners in a way, and especially respect refugee obligations, and bring it to a different level of debate. I mean, what I see now, it's individual cases that are, and often, there, of course, if a crime gets committed, it sometimes attracts huge public attention, and it is used and instrumentalized and weaponized against the whole group. We never talk about the fact that refugees, migrants have made enormous contributions to host societies, including in Europe. I mean, even all the funding that is spent on integrating them, there is an initial investment, if you like, if you look at it from an investment perspective, you get it back, I don't know how many, 5 times more, because they will contribute to the labor market, they will contribute to the pension system, they will contribute to all these things. And there are actually hardcore studies from the World Bank, from different institutes. I never hear that. I only hear about the negative areas of criminality, and that also need to be addressed. There's no doubt about it.
But should then the fact that they're migrants or people who are seeking for asylum, should that be singled out, or is it just crimes? Or
no, of course, the fact that we have an obligation, there is an obligation to honor the 51 Convention, to honor in the European Convention on Human Rights to honor all these, because this came out of, it's an achievement that came out of, frankly, not least, as I mentioned before, the experience of what happened during the Second World War and the Holocaust. Yeah. And it's an achievement of the world to finally say, no, we will protect people who seek asylum, who are persecuted, who flee war. And that's key.
And do you see any good examples where this is not happening in Europe, or because far right, extreme right, and like the marriage of the anti-migration ideas are like go hand in hand? Do you see any good examples? Hopeful examples?
I think it has been captured in the political spectrum in a very unhealthy way, because we cannot have proper discussions anymore about the challenges, the issues, what to do about it. It immediately gets caught up in politics, and that's not helpful. So it gets very polarized. Because, of course, all the issues that need to be addressed on integration, on difficulties, yes, they need to be put on the table, they need to be discussed, they need to be discussed also at the community level. But if it gets immediately into the toxic politics of it, we are not going to find a solution, but there are solutions. I mean, I myself, when I was in UNHCR, I led the Global Compact on refugees, and it was a blueprint, a comprehensive blueprint of what could be done in order to deal with the challenges that refugee hosting countries, not just in Europe, but everywhere else, are facing. I wish all this painstaking work that was built up would actually be considered in these debates. And it goes into the tensions, the dilemmas, the things that are difficult. But what I see instead is a polarized discussion and a discussion that dehumanizes the other and dehumanizes migrants and refugees in a way that totally takes away also the massive contributions that people make to our societies. They enrich our societies. Yeah. We never hear about that, or not enough.
I agree. I agree, of course. Let's go to the future. What should be done, and who should do this? There is one. Okay, it's not hopeful yet. There's one thing which you also talked about, not in this case, but in another statement about lethal autonomous weapons, because the world is changing very quickly, and they're now upon us. You say. Because it's not a person who decides to kill in a war anymore. And if we look at the human rights, are the human rights we have at this moment, are they still suitable, or should that be changed?
Well, on technology more generally, I'm worried when I hear that we only talk about ethical standards when it comes to technology. Because my message is actually no. Ethical standards, you can decide, you can be unethical, right? Yeah. We actually have binding law, human rights law, that applies offline, online, that applies to business. So there are clear criteria that can be used not just in the risk, in the development of these technological tools, what the risks are, but also what the impact is on human rights. And we have actually been working, I have a whole section dealing with the digital world, including with the big tech companies, and not just in the Silicon Valley, everywhere in the world, because we want to develop a sense of not only, ownership of the human rights cause, not always easy, I have to say, but we have had some who reacted to our taxonomy of risks for artificial intelligence, for example. And they have used this, and I was encouraged that more and more businesses around the world actually see human rights as an incredibly important compass. So, but when it comes to the military, and especially these autonomous lethal weapons, if it comes to the development of AI and killing machines of whatever sort, I think there needs to be an absolute, from my perspective, I cannot imagine that this would be in line with international humanitarian return, with any standards that we have conceived. So the question is, we don't need to develop anything, we need to say no to it. So it needs to have a prohibition of this type of weapons. Because if you take away human agency, you end up with who is responsible. Right?
Yeah, well, but this is already the case, right?
You have some, I mean, you have some, it has started, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, it should be prohibited.
So who is going to do something about that?
This
Who?
is, I mean, we
$1
can
million
do the advocacy,
yeah.
but it is member states. And there are initiatives that are underway, but they need to act fast. So it is member states who have to come together and say, we are going to stop this. The problem is,
that's not really what's happening.
The problem is the big powers, let's be honest.
And this is where the money is being spent. I think there was a huge weapon fair, I think maybe even the biggest in Paris, also one in Germany.
So the issue is...
NATO is really happy because we're spending all this money on defense.
Yeah, so the issue is the big powers, because I'm sure a lot of small countries, I mean, I come from a small country myself. I mean, the issue for us has always been respect for international law. But I mean, if you have then big powers who are not constrained by this, then we have a problem. So there needs to be, I mean, full awareness in these countries about what this could potentially do to us.
But how are you spreading that message? What are you telling us? What are you telling those member states?
We have agency. We should, even when we think, no, we have, I mean, there is, because everyone wants us to think that we don't. I mean, and especially we get worn, I mean, everyone gets worn down by some of these news, but we do have agency.
What is that? What is the agency? Like the people here in the room?
In any sphere of influence that we have, exercise it. Ask political parties to declare how they fare on human rights. I mean, I don't see in electoral campaigns a discussion on human rights, for example. Hardly ever. I mean, we should screen and scrutinize political manifestos and say, okay, those who are going to go into governance, what are they going to do about human rights? I want to make human rights more central to politics, but not in a polarizing way, but in a way that make sure that everyone opens up and tells us what they're going to do. Okay, and so if they exclude certain segments of a society and dehumanize them, we should be very, very worried, because there will be other segments of society will follow, and that's frankly the playbook that we have seen so many. If you start with foreigners, at some stage it will be other segments of society, and we have seen it, LGBTIQ+ community, minorities.
It's happening here in the Netherlands as well. But I'm worried already. I think everyone here is worried. But what are the tools? What are the instruments? What is the strategy?
We have engagement, activism. You have issues, alliance, for example. I mean, also at the national level, see what motivates you and do something about it. I mean, sometimes we think we don't have agency, but we do. And we should never, ever believe that we don't. Because that's what sometimes some want us to believe. Yeah. Because they want us to be distracted.
Yeah, I have a few more questions about this, about what we can do, but maybe it's time to open the floor also. There's a microphone here. Who has a question? Hold on.
Test.
Yeah.
We can agree that sharp red lines have been crossed. International law, international system is broken, and I come here for the hope, as Nadia is trying to dig into. And you mentioned that the hope, is with the member states. And that's the only thing I just, But the thing is, the key Western member states, they are directly complicit. From day one, they gave Israel the green light to go ahead without pointing that Israel, you must respect international law. You have the right to do whatever, but you have to respect. They could not say it. And for me, it's like, what gives you this hope that still, rely on key countries that are providing Israel with the weapons in which they are committing an ongoing genocide for 2.5 years now. So I find it, I believe in diplomacy. I believe, it's the way out. But it's what makes you have this hope that these key countries that's providing these weapons, they are keen. What will change them? What is the driving force for them to move ahead with that vision? You think that's the only way out.
Okay.
And I think, one last thing, and I think the way out, because I don't have any hope that this will be the way out, I think for the UN, which I believe in, they have to come out with reports to point at each country that is obstructing this way out. And sadly, it's only Francesca Albanese who came out with a daring report, and respect to her. And that's why she's sanctioned by the US. And please.
Okay, thank you.
You want to take it?
Yes, no, I'll do it one by one.
Look, first of all, my office has issued numerous reports. We are on record on many fronts, including because the Human Rights Council has asked us to issue a database, including on investments in the West Bank. So we have done what we have to do, and as a result, we have also seen actions by companies to disinvest, for example. So it's not that, I don't think we should always focus on one or the other. There is a lot that has been happening, and it has influenced to some extent some of the policies that we have seen. We also have seen a change, frankly, within societies and pressuring governments to do something about it. So we have seen changes as a result, not least of the reporting that we have done. And I would say this is for the whole system of the United Nations, including on the humanitarian situation inside Gaza, for example, or in the West Bank. And that I wish we could have the same in other situations as well. Sudan is a very good example, because no one talks about Sudan, or not enough. Or
But
Myanmar, by the way, or Haiti.
But for example, looking into the member states and how they are complicit, is that something you do already, or you should be doing more in reports?
I mean, there's a very difficult issue legally. It's obviously an area that I think increasingly we need to look into, especially when it comes to business interests. Because there is some very clear guidelines on business and human rights.
Okay.
But we are in a survival mode, don't forget. So it's also,
but if you're in a survival mode, what about the world? What about the human rights?
No, I mean, in terms of, be honest,
I know.
I mean, it's wonderful to...
have more ideas, more reports.
Well, we need more ideas, but we also need to be able to do it and implement it.
Yeah. There was another, let me see how many questions are there. Oh, there's quite a few. The one there on the left. Yeah. Is there questions here behind me? Oh, a lot. Okay, yes.
My name is Nasruddin Ahmed. I'm Deputy Head of Mission, Embassy of Sudan in The Hague. Actually, I'm very pleased to be here this evening, this wonderful discussions by His Excellency Volker. And as you might, all of us listen to him, he mentioned Sudan maybe more than 7 or 10 times. He actually understands very well what's going on in Sudan. He's involved in this, I believe, this issue, maybe 4 years. In terms of human rights violation in Sudan, actually, what's happening in Sudan, it needs to be clear enough. What's going on in Sudan is not a conflict between two generals or between. Sometimes when we're talking about issues in Sudan, as just Nadia mentioned that, or somebody else mentioned, nobody talks about what's going on in Sudan. What's going on in Sudan, actually, it's really crisis. It's really violation of human rights, but nobody talks about it. Reports by United Nations and its agencies, besides satellite images and the videos that has been made by the RSF members, it's just very clear to say that who is fueling and waging this war in Sudan. Everybody would not like to mention who is really waged this war in Sudan. Government of Sudan keep calling for international community, and especially United Nations and Security Council, just to condemn what's going on in Sudan. not only condemns, but also at least to put effective measure to halt this crisis, and just moreover, and to put to designate RSF as terrorist militia organization. But what we hear from their side.
I'm sorry to interrupt. My apologies, but we have 15 minutes to get some more questions. So
yes,
your point is to get more
point.
Attention, right?
Yes,
more
one
attention
more point. Yes, but Mr. Volker mentioned that United Nations failed to solve most crises in the world. For the future of the human rights, I believe the main issues that make us worried, it's an issue of politicized issues of human rights within United Nations and its agencies.
Okay. Do you want to respond, or should I collect some more? Yeah, I'll collect some more questions. One over there and one over there. Oh, that's a lot. And there's. Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking questions today. I was just wondering, because you've mentioned you visited places where human rights are being violated every day. You're seeing numbers of horrific cases all over the world. I was just wondering, do you keep your sanity throughout it all? Because even just hearing today what is happening in Gaza, especially, like, it touches like your moral sense, and this is you have such a important role in the United Nations, especially in this area. So I was just wondering.
Thank you. Thank you. Then, can you everybody raise their hands who has a question? Yeah, two over here. Yeah.
You want to hold the mic? Yeah. Thank you very much. I think you're a bit unlucky. You came all the way to the Netherlands to be faced by many Palestinians here in the room. But anyways, my name is Ammar Hijazi. I'm the Palestinian representative to the Netherlands. We had a chance to meet several times in different occasions. But I'm not going to ask about Palestine. I want to ask you, and I really appreciate that we find men like you and in other places, international servants, who stood when everybody was wavering and states were wavering on the issues of human rights. And that is very important, because you held the fort when everybody wavered. And this is important for the people to know that this kind of work has been done. And I think you reported enough about issues about the world to make each and every mechanism that we have created in the last 8 years to be activated. So there is no excuse to anyone not to act, including citizens of the world. But you had spread a map about the things that can be done. Could you conclude with that? Because that's the message of hope that everybody is seeking, and this is what I understood from the room. So citizens of the world, what are their duties? Members of parliament, governments. It's not the Human Rights Council that's gonna resolve all the questions and problems in the world. You don't have armies and you don't have mechanisms. It's states are the duty bearer of human rights implementation and respect. So what needs to be done to activate that? Okay. And one last question, if you allow me. Oh, okay, I'll pass.
Yeah, because there's a few more, yes. A short one, please.
Short question. Yes. First of all, Volker, thank you very much for your very important work and for being here in the Netherlands. I just wanted to know, on a human level, you were talking about the Taliban and, well, what's going on, gender apartheid. I can imagine you really don't agree with what is going on. How do you convince people you are talking with, if you're talking with the Taliban, how do you do that on a human level? Are you then exchanging WhatsApp numbers and sending them text afterwards? No, but really, do you go out for dinner? Like, apart from the reports that you make, like, how do you also try to convince them to take other standpoints?
All right. Oh my God, there's too many questions. Okay, let me do two here, and then let's see who had a question here? Okay, yeah.
Thanks again for the inspiring talk as well. The organization you're in is obviously in survival mode. I understand you have, not a lot of mechanisms except for reporting and alerting and talking about it to actually enforce actions upon member states, because those, of course, legitimize your organization to begin with. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any mechanisms to enforce action on the side of businesses or the arms traders that are actually, as you mentioned, shipping these weapons into regions with conflict? It can be a yes or no question.
Okay, last one.
Thank you for taking the time and for, I think, as you already said, it seems nowadays it's quite hard to have conversations with people about human rights. And I know there's a lot of difficult questions, so we're already very appreciative that you take the time to answer them. My question is, I'll keep it short, is about misinformation. I think you mentioned it shortly at the start. It seems, I don't know if this has, it seems like it's been increasing over time, that it's weaponized misinformation as a way of attacking the credibility of a lot of the institutions that we try to rely upon, ICJ, ICC, but also UNRWA. And I wonder what you see as the role of the UN in trying to tackle that misinformation. Because it's hard if it's us versus them and people keep repeating what they think and it seems to polarize. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you have 8 minutes to answer these questions.
Just very quickly.
Because I heard we have a tight schedule, right?
Yeah. So I just want to say, Sudan, I would not want to give the impression that the two generals
there's two.
are not responsible. They are first and foremost responsible for what's happening.
Yeah. So it's not just the RSF, it's also the...
No, RSF and both.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, both started the war. I mean, it doesn't matter who started it because they are different.
But they're both committing war crimes, right?
But both are responsible. And I just want to make that very clear because it's not one or the other, and it's both. And it's not something that others, I mean, because it's sometimes easy to say it's all others, the responsibility of others. No, it starts with those two. And I want to be very clear about that. And it's not, I did not say that the UN failed to resolve conflict. I said the international community failed to resolve conflict because, frankly, the one organ that has the mandate to do it is the Security Council. But when you have Security Council members who are permanent members of the Security Council who have a veto, violate law, international law, then you have a problem because they will not use the Security Council to resolve these issues. So
should that change?
Yes,
veto?
of course it should.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So no more vetoes?
I mean, there should not be a veto when it comes to atrocity crimes, for example. And there is a GA, I mean, there are initiatives that have gone in this direction very clearly and very important ones. On sanity, well, I think we also know that if we didn't do this work with all the complexities, I mean, it keeps us going because we also see that there are many people that we are the carrier of hope for them. And it's a huge responsibility for us to do our utmost to deliver to that. So that keeps us sane amidst all the madness. Of course, we all have our moments, that's clear. But, I mean, we also see successes. I mean, successes that are not, well, I mentioned one particular example, but there are many other things as well. I mean, if we manage to prevent the reintroduction of the death penalty in Kyrgyzstan, I think it's a small success. If we manage to have laws changed because they would otherwise violate international law, yes, it's a success, and we should at least celebrate it. And we can also learn from these examples how we did it so that we can apply it in other situations. So all of this helps us keep going. So I think the question that you have is the fundamental one, because what I fear in the current debate, when everyone says rules-based order, what I said before, when rules-based order is sort of
gone,
well, or changing, we cannot afford to lose the human rights normative system. And the human rights normative system is not just an issue of obligations of states. It has a long history that I mentioned, but it is also an inspiration for people to, and has encapsulated the imagination of people around the world all the time. I mean, the Gen Z movements that we have analyzed in the last 2 years or so, there was a deep motivation that came from a human rights instinct. We need to capture that energy, which is why this global alliance is a little bit of an attempt to mobilize beyond member states segments of society that care about more prosperity, stability, and hope for the world as a whole. And that's, I mean, as I mentioned, it's business, it's of course civil society, but it's also, frankly, we need more intellectual underpinning of it as well, because we sometimes, as I mentioned, we hear this mantra, oh, it's all a Western concept. I had a very interesting dialogue with a Senegalese philosopher, some of you may know him, Souleymane Bachir Diagne, who taught in Paris, Dhaka, and in the US. I mean, he wrote about how deep the tradition of human rights is anchored in Africa, because we often hear the contrary. You know, they say, this is colonial, neo-colonial, it's all kind. No, actually, we have philosophers, intellectuals, precisely, who put forward that argument, and that's so important. And we need this from all regions of the world, and we have those thinkers. So it's really a mobilization. I mean, of some, you know, we have people power that we have seen work in many instances, but you need to give content to it, and the content is human rights, because if it's not guided, then we have more chaos, and we can't afford this. So human rights is a compass. It's not only normative, it is also a compass, a sense of orientation that you can give in troubled times. So we hope with this that we can build up.
That's the Imagine Dialogue Act.
And Act, yeah.
So people can find it online.
You can find it online if you type in Global Alliance for Human Rights. Yeah. How to engage? I mean, I actually haven't engaged with the Taliban myself, but my office does. But I have, of course, engaged with very unsavory characters over many. And, you know, for us, we need to speak to everyone. Yeah. That's a principle. The UN is there to do it, even with the ones who you fundamentally disagree with. And we need to find arguments. Some of it is, you know, arguments. Some of it is pressure. Some of it is all kinds of tricks that we have to use. And we have probably all developed different methods. But if you don't confront, if you don't pass messages, if you don't convey, and if you have cut the communication channels, then it is a problem. And sometimes you can, you know, even raise, as I said, individual cases, and you get resolved, even with the ones who, because even autocrats of the worst sort, they would never say they don't respect human rights. I have never met anyone who says they will have all kinds of arguments and rationalizations, but they would never tell you in your face that they have violated human rights. So that's actually very good, because you can use this. But I fear if we end up in a world where this is no longer the case, which is also why the Global Alliance is so important, because a Universal Declaration of Human Rights is still the consensus and the basis of a social contract all around the world. And if anyone starts tinkering with it, I would be very worried. But we still, I have not heard...
You're not worried yet?
No, because I have not heard from any member state ever a doubt about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But if they read it, and I keep encouraging them to read it, it at least gives us that entry point. And that's incredibly important. Yes, we can't enforce. But we have tools. For example, when it comes to, I mean, we don't have the enforcement power. But the commissions of inquiry, the fact that we document, monitor, the fact that we report, that we speak out, that we have different tools, has indirect consequences. That business, for example, why do we have a business forum, human rights and business, every year, where when I arrived we had about 3,000 participants, now we have 5,000 and counting. So it also shows that business, because they see it in their own self-interest, including in their interest of doing smart business, so it's sometimes we don't need to have enforcement as the only way to achieve change. By the way, for those who are, I mean, students, or younger colleagues, please look at behavioral science as a method, because we only think of enforcement and punitive measures. There's also a lot that can be done around behavioral science if you want to change behavior. And so you don't necessarily always need only one method. And we need to be innovative about that as well.
I would like to know what is then a good example, but there's no time anymore. In Kosovo? But looking at behavioral science?
Behavioral science, for instance, we can...
I think you need to...
Misinformation and disinformation, just on the weaponization, I think that's one of the big issues that we have a dialogue with on tech companies, because for us, there are two limits where they need to do content moderation, which is hate speech and incitement to violence, and harmful disinformation. But I think it will only change if there is also a lot of reactions that, those who consume social media are actually fed up and mention this to companies, because the algorithms, as you know, they amplify it, so they divide and polarize us. But at some stage, I believe very much in consumer power as well, to say we have had enough of this.
But it's designed to get us addicted.
But that's the problem, and then again, the responsibility comes in. But I do believe in consumer power as well when it comes to these harmful products, if they are of this sort.
Yeah, someone is nodding to me that we have to end it here tonight. Volker Türk, thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I hope you keep on doing what you do, and that the civil society will do more, and people can read this. So I'll say it again, Imagine, Dialogue, Act, Global Alliance for Human Rights. Thank you I'll keep it. Thank you so much, and for your time.
Thank you all very much.